Merry meet! Today I'm going to be discussing the phases of the moon. Now, traditionally in magic, most practitioners will focus on the three main phases, which is the waxing, the full, and the waning. However, there are actually 6 phases: the new moon, the waxing moon, the full, the waning, the crying moon, and the dark moon. So hopefully with this lecture you'll learn a little bit more about all 6 phases and how they can be worked with. Now the new moon is the very first crescent of the moon. This is the first visible sign of the moon. The new moon only lasts one night. Now some people may call this the young moon or the waxing crescent, but since it's the starting of a new lunar phase, it's correctly termed the new moon. Magically, this represents new beginnings, fresh starts. It represents rebirth. So anything that you're starting with a new, fresh perspective, that would be done on this one night of the new moon. The waxing moon is the period as the moon becomes full. Once it reaches past the halfway mark, we call this the waxing gibbous moon. Gibbous means having the observable illuminated part greater than a semicircle, but less than a circle. So that would be from the halfway point forward to the full, that we call it the waxing gibbous. The waxing moon will last up to 14 days, give or take, from the new moon to the full moon. Magically, as the moon is getting bigger, or visibly getting bigger, this represents drawing or pulling energy to you. So during this time, you would do magic that would increase energy. For instance, if you were increasing prosperity, if you were wanting to increase your prosperity, you would do that during the waxing moon. It brings in positive change, positive energy. So you're pulling it in and making it bigger, like the moon is getting bigger. Now the full moon, of course, is when the moon is fully visible in the sky. Technically, this lasts just for one night. However, magically, we see this as lasting for 3 nights in most paths. Some paths only will acknowledge it for the one night, but some paths will acknowledge it for 3 nights. The reason of this is because of the way that we look at the idea of the triple goddess, and the goddess is represented by the moon. So the last night of the waxing moon would represent the maiden, the full moon itself represents the mother aspect, and the first night of the waning moon would represent the crone. So that's why some places will do a full moon for 3 evenings rather than just one. During the night of the full moon, we consider that to be a night of full energy. Technically, any positive spell work could be done at this time if you're needing full energy. A lot of practitioners like to work with the full moon. However, in some paths, the full moon is not a night to do magic, but a night of celebration. The full moons are called the espits, and during it we will celebrate a specific purpose, a specific energy, and that is dependent on the month that we're actually in. So where some paths will do just about any type of form of magic during the night of the full moon, other paths will only do specific magical workings. So it's all dependent on the path that you're on. The waning moon is when the moon starts to look like it's getting smaller. Now, like with the waxing moon, when the moon is waning but over halfway, it's considered waning gibbous. And then when it gets past that halfway mark, it's just simply waning. So it starts out with waning gibbous and then moves into the waning phase. Uh, just like with the waxing moon, it will take about 14 days for the moon to go from the wane to the crying moon. During this time, we're pushing out energy. So we would be magically removing things that we no longer need from our lives. This would be when we would be eliminating energy, banishing negative energy, removing those unwanted things. It's a good time to start breaking bad habits and just getting rid of those things or even people that are holding us back in life. We want to get rid of that stuff. So that's done during the waning moon. Now, the crying moon is a phase of the moon that most people in the magical community don't work with. Now, just like the new moon, the crying moon would be the final crescent of the waning moon, and it's the last viewable portion of the moon. And also, just like with the new moon, the crying moon only lasts one night. It's a very small period of time. The reason why most people who work magic don't work with, or even in some cases don't even acknowledge the crying moon, is because it tends to be a time when most people who do work with negative energy, that negative energy is utilized. Many paths this night is when anyone who would utilize negative energy would do very negative energy, such as a curse. So that would be when that sort of magic would be performed, just that one night a month during this one phase. The reason that this is called a crying moon is because whenever we work with negative energy or whenever we completely purge negative energy from us, there's a lot of high emotions running, a lot of sorrow. So, either you'll be crying or if you're working with curses, someone else will be. This is actually the best night of the moon phase to let go of negativity that you're holding. This is the night when we can mourn our losses for anything that we've done. We can prepare ourselves to forgive not only other people, but very importantly ourselves. And a lot of people tend to forget themselves when it comes to forgiveness. So this can be a time of cleansing our spirits, our souls, and acknowledging our regrets and our negative parts, bringing those to light and viewing them. And sometimes we don't like what we see during the crying moon, and that's okay. It is important to forgive ourselves, but it's not always easy to do. And this is that one night that you can fully just get rid of it. It's that last crescent, that last time that you have that little bit of energy pushing out, and it's that final push. The dark moon, which some people mistakenly call the new moon, is when the moon is no longer visible. It's completely dark. That dark moon falls between the crying moon, that last crescent, and the new moon, the first crescent. So it only lasts one night. Many practitioners do not do magic on the night of the dark moon, and that's because of the misconception that this is a time of negativity. It isn't. So where the crying moon was a time to let go and I guess you can say death of one phase, and the new moon is the rebirth. The Dark moon is the time of transformation between those two, between the old and the new. So during this time, practitioners can reform and prepare themselves for that new phase. It's kind of a time for rest, so it can be understood why practitioners may not utilize it, but it can also be that time to prepare yourself for that rebirth. So those are the 6 phases of the moon. You can learn more about the moon phases in the moon musing series that we have at the school. There's the understanding and working with the moon, which just concentrates on the different moon phases and how to chart. And then there's an entire series for each season of the moon, which covers summer, spring, winter, and fall. And then it also covers the understanding of the blue moon, the black moon, and a lunar eclipse. So hopefully this has helped you learn a little bit about the moon phases and will encourage you to work with all aspects of the moon, not just the main 3 that most people do. So thank you for joining me, Mary Part.